Hey, welcome everyone. So nice to see you. Slow metabolism after the age of 40. What's really going on? My name's Tori. I'm a women's integrative nutrition and lifestyle coach. I'm also a functional weight loss specialist. Another quick announcement before we dive into slow metabolism and what's going on after the age of 40. The doors to the Radiant Health Reset, which is my signature 6-month program, are actually closed at the moment. If you would like to be one of the first in line when the doors reopen, then you need to comment Radiant in big capital letters so that I can add your name at the list. There's going to be one single opportunity this year to do deep work with me, but I will tell you more about that at the end. Now, on to today's topic. Slow metabolism after the age of 40. What's really going on? If you're a woman over 40 and you've been told, well, metabolism just slows down and that's just life. If you feel like you've tried all these things to try and help your slow metabolism and the scale isn't budging, it can feel a little bit like your body's working against you and it doesn't like you anymore. And that can be really difficult. This training is for you. I'm just going to refresh my screen because I can't see any comments yet. And normally I would have quite a few comments by now. Oh, there we go. Okay, Fidel said hello. Hi. Good morning, Sarah. Really lovely to have you join me. So both Fidel and Sarah are women that I have worked with inside the Radiant Health Reset community and container. Beautiful to have you here. So your metabolism is actually not working against you. It's responding actually quite logically and predictably, given your metabolism's design, to the signals that you've been sending it. And once you start to understand that it's the signals you are sending, then you can change the outcome. So let's go. Slow metabolism after 40. What's really going on? Well, first of all, I want to share with you the 4 main drivers of this metabolic slowdown that happens after the age of 40, or when we're coming into our perimenopausal stage of life, which of course for some women can happen a little earlier, it can happen a little bit later. I've chatted to women who are in their mid-30s who some of this process is already beginning. Here's what they get told. Well, your metabolism just slows down after 40 and there's really nothing you can do about it. Because it's just your hormones. So it's just aging and you just need to accept it. You just need to love yourself just how you are. Sorry, I've got a hair that keeps sticking in my eye today. But here's the truth. Slow metabolism isn't a diagnosis and it's not something you need to live with. It's a symptom and it's absolutely something we want to do something about. We want to support the body. Your body doesn't just randomly decide to start storing fat and resist weight loss. It's responding to specific physiological inputs, and the inputs are identifiable. We can learn what they are. So here's the 4 main drivers, 4 of the primary drivers of this slowing metabolism as we get into perimenopause and menopause. Every woman I work with has some combination of this going on, usually 2 of these 4 things, or maybe all 4 of these 4 things to some degree. So the first thing is insulin resistance, which is when our cells stop effectively responding to insulin. They don't let them in. They don't let insulin in anymore. And so therefore, if we can't let insulin in, which is insulin's holding hands with glucose, then the glucose can't get into the cells. And our sugar levels in our blood are staying elevated longer than they should. And if sugar is staying elevated in the blood, well, that's not safe. Hi, we've got 6 people on the call. Hi, Kayla. Great to have you on the call, darling. Kayla, another beautiful woman that I have worked with. So lovely to see you. And so if our blood sugar is staying elevated longer than it should, the body's only option is to store that sugar as fat because your body knows it's dangerous to leave sugar elevated in the blood. It's very corrosive. It can cause a lot of damage, can cause oxidative stress in the body. And so what it does is it takes that sugar and it stores it as fat to save you from the damage. Why do our cells stop responding to insulin efficiently? Because higher levels of estrogen were protecting us. And now our estrogen levels are lower. We don't have that same buffer. Higher levels of estrogen make cells more responsive to insulin. Lower levels of estrogen make cells less responsive. We don't have so much of a buffer there. So the hormonal landscape has shifted, and our insulin sensitivity has shifted as a result of these declining reproductive hormones. So the diet and the lifestyle that you've always eaten and the way you've always lived, it doesn't match this new physiology anymore. Hi, Catherine. It's so lovely to have you here. So that's the first thing, is in this burgeoning, this developing insulin resistance dynamic. Okay. Driver number 2, muscle loss. So muscle on your body is metabolically active tissue. So is fat, by the way, but they behave very differently. Muscle burns calories even when you're sitting still. So does fat, actually. But muscle burns 7 times more, even when you are active, even when you're sitting still. Muscle is also like a glucose container, is probably a way that I could describe it. Meaning your body can park sugar there. It can park sugar there so that it doesn't stay in the bloodstream. But most women in perimenopause and menopause are actually losing a lot of muscle. They don't have as much because they're usually under eating for this stage of life, especially protein. And they're often under training as well to maintain or build their muscle mass, or they're not doing the right type of training. And so with less muscle on the body, then slower metabolism, more glucose staying in the blood, more fat storage. So this is just part of our physiology for many women at this stage of life. Can you see how nothing I've said so far is you eat too much? Right, I've talked about 2 drivers and neither of them were women are eating too much at this stage of life. Just so you can note that down, write that down if you might forget later. Okay, the third most common driver of a slower metabolism is HPATG dysfunction, but let me try and put this into simple terms. Actually, let's just focus on cortisol. When I say HPATG axis dysfunction, I mean that our hormonal axis is beginning to be skewed and things are out of balance. But I just want to focus on cortisol today, actually. When women are living with chronic stress, and let's be honest, most of us do, then their cortisol stays elevated. It's lost its nice rhythms and it can be staying elevated. And chronically elevated cortisol does a few things. One of them is it's suppressing your body's conversion of thyroid hormone. And chronically elevated cortisol also is unfortunately starting to break down your muscle tissue as a quick source of energy and amino acids. And chronically elevated cortisol is going to drive more visceral fat storage, more stubborn fat around your organs and your belly. So it can be doing all of these things simultaneously plus more. So your metabolism slows and your muscle starts to shrink because it's being broken down. And as your fat stores are also growing, which is vastly affecting your body's composition of muscle to fat ratio. And cortisol is like a stealth driver that's keeping women going through times of stress. And they're not getting this loss of good cortisol rhythms investigated properly to help them understand what's going on. All right, so a fourth thing that I want to talk about is underactive thyroid. And this is the one that can be such a source of frustration for women because they go to their doctor willing to talk about thyroid and wanting to understand their body's own thyroid function, but our system is letting us down because doctors only have access to get perhaps one or two aspects of thyroid health measured, perhaps TSH, or if they're lucky, TSH and T4. And you can't assess true thyroid function in the body by only looking at these two markers alone. Often they're told, well, things look normal here. And women hear that as, there's no problems with my thyroid, and they go home and they believe there's nothing wrong with my thyroid. But TSH and T4 are not telling us the whole story about thyroid health. It's not telling us whether our body is effectively converting our stores of T4 into the active form. Are we making lots of free active T3, or are we making reverse T3? It's also not telling us, is there any disease happening here in the thyroid? Is our body creating thyroid antibodies? Do we have problems in the tissue? Plus, we're not assessing whether or not the body has adequate nutrients that our thyroid gland needs to thrive and the necessary nutrients that are cofactors for thyroid hormone conversion. So we're not looking at, does this woman have adequate ferritin stores? Does she have plenty of B12 on board? How are her vitamin D stores going? All nutrients that are so key to this process. And without the full picture, you could have normal TSH and T4 and still have a very slow metabolism. I've seen this happen hundreds of times with women where they hear what the doctor says as there's nothing wrong with my thyroid, but there's so much more to this picture. Okay, so to recap what I've covered so far about these drivers, we've covered muscle loss can be one of the things going on. We've covered insulin resistance. Actually, I did them in the other order, didn't I? Insulin resistance was number one. Number two is loss of muscle, which is our metabolic engine. And number three was hormonal dysfunction, but we focused on cortisol as kind of the main part of the picture that I wanted you to understand today. And we covered potentially a slow and sluggish thyroid. Slow, sluggish thyroid conversion, slow, sluggish thyroid function. Jenny's here. Hey, Jenny. Jenny's on the Radiant Health Reset too. So good to have you here, darling. So those are the four main drivers that I see. Notice in any of that, I did not say aging is the main factor of a slow metabolism. And I didn't say, oh, hormones, they go wild. That's why you have a slow metabolism. And I didn't say it's just bad luck for some women and we just have to live with a slow metabolism. And I didn't say, oh, you just get to this stage and your body just hates you and it goes against you. That was not one of the drivers. And I also did not say, could you guys just stop overeating? Maybe you should just exercise a little bit more, because that is never the case. Then we might get to a point where I go, okay, we could bring in some really supportive movement. And we might, for sure, we might have women who are using food as an emotional crutch. That happens sometimes too. But a vast majority of the time, it's insulin resistance, it's dysregulated cortisol rhythms, it's an underactive thyroid, and it's muscle loss. I promise you, those are the four main things. So stop beating yourself up and start thinking about, how could I support these different dynamics that are more than likely the reason why I'm struggling with a slow metabolism? Because these are specific and identifiable and addressable dynamics that are going on in your body. And the great news about that is we can do something about it. Isn't that amazing? How exciting. Kind of a relief, right? So let me know in the comments if this has been useful to you so far. I have more, of course. There's so much more I want to talk to you about. But is it useful to you to know that there are specific and identifiable causes that you can do something about? Four main ones that we've heard about today. There are 9 people on the call. It's so good to have you. If you haven't said hello yet, please say hi. Let me know where you're coming from. Are you new around here? I'd love to welcome you to the community. All right. So now I want to talk about What's making it worse? Eating less and trying to do more at the gym is making this so much worse. I get really fired up about this because I'm in a whole lot of Facebook groups with women. And I see this constantly when women say, guys, what are your best weight loss tips? Can someone help me here? I'm really struggling. I'm not eating any differently to how I was before. And yeah, my body just seems to be storing more and more fat. They might say, particularly around my belly, there's just more and more fat accumulating. Or they might say, my butt is getting really big and I'm so embarrassed. And I even am getting bigger breasts and my arm size is getting really big as well. And you know what women say? A vast majority say, well, what you need to do is you need to eat in a calorie deficit. It's the only way to lose weight. And so you need to eat about 1,100 calories a day, or they pick some random, very low, almost dangerous number. So you just need to eat a whole lot less, you need to move more because it's calories in, calories out. And so I get on those posts and I speak my truth, and I get laughing reactions from women. I get laughing reactions because they think what I'm talking about is total baloney. Never mind that I've helped hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women achieve their goal weight. If you eat less than your body's requirements and you try to exercise more and you try harder and you try to do even more of what used to work, well, what actually happens in your physiology when you do that is your body registers that as a chronic calorie restriction, which is the same as living in times of fathom to your nervous system. So if you drastically undereat and you do it for a long time, your body reads that as a threat. And so your cortisol becomes even more elevated and your thyroid will slow down even more. And your body will have to break down more muscle for fuel. Remember we said before that low muscle in the body, low levels of muscle in the body is a problem for your metabolism. It was part of the picture. So now we're losing even more muscle because we have to break that down if there's not enough food going in. So you end up with a slower metabolism, even less muscle than you started with. You might lose weight on the scales. Yes, that might happen because you've got less muscle on your body. Are you losing fat? Probably not. You've now made your metabolism even more fragile, not more resilient. You've effectively slowed it even more. And when you go back to real life, because you can't possibly keep going with this ridiculous calorie restriction, which feels terrible for you, so then it's like pulling back a rubber band, snaps back, and then you return to eating normal levels of food, and then the weight comes back faster than before. Has that ever happened to anyone? You go back to normal life because you can't restrict any further, and the rubber band snaps, and then and you go, oh my God. And this is the yo-yo effect, or the merry-go-round that you can never get off. I'm so glad this is so useful for you, Sarah. I never get tired of hearing this, right? I repeat myself a lot when I'm talking about women's metabolism, but the repetition builds retention for us and the ability to be able to recall this information so we can have more empowering conversations with our doctors and our health practitioners and with each other. Okay, so that's what's happening when we undereat. We're going to cause a situation where the weight comes back even faster than before. Now I want to talk about what happens when we over-exercise, when we're hours on the treadmill, the spin classes, the jogging. I have women come to me and they're like, I run 3 times a week, I can't lose any weight. A little bit of cardiovascular exercise is wonderful for the body, of course. But when this is chronic in an effort to lose weight, remember our intention is very important, the intention behind it. When you combine that with undereating, you've got a recipe for hormonal disaster. This is a catabolic picture. When I say catabolic, if you're not sure what that means, hi Natalie, it's really nice to have you here. I think you're new to our community. Nice to meet you, darling. I'm glad you said hello. Yes, Catherine's saying yes, absolutely. This is valuable and it makes sense. Wonderful. So this is a catabolic situation. If you're not sure what I mean by catabolic, I mean we're now breaking down the body's own tissue, usually muscle, because the body needs to get energy somehow. And it has this wonderful life-saving mechanism of being able to break down your own muscle. But you can see how these problems are now becoming very interconnected. Less muscle on the body, less ability to burn fat and burn calories. So the exact thing you need more of, muscle, is going to be broken down if you are over exercising. It's going to be broken down for access to nutrients. Yes. Oh, Natalie, really? It's cutting out. Yes, perhaps you're in an area with not great internet, but you can always watch this on replay. Glad this is great info for you. Sally's asking for the replay. Hopefully a member of my team will see your request and they can send you the replay. I also want to talk about what happens when we skip meals and we fast chronically as well. Hear me out on this. Fasting can be a great tool. I use it sometimes with some clients, but for perimenopausal women who almost always have dysregulated blood sugar levels, and they almost always have chronically elevated cortisol, I'm yet to meet a perimenopausal woman who doesn't have some degree of this going on. Fasting is like pouring fuel on the fire, and I still see even health practitioner friends of mine who are struggling to lose weight. I still see them doing these fasts. Please stop. This is madness. Stop. There's a time for fasting. That time is not now. When it's the right time for fasting, I'll let you know. It's not now. Your blood sugar is going to end up even more messed up. Your cortisol is going to be even higher. Fat storage is going to win because this is too much stress on your body right now at this stage of your metabolic function and this stage of your hormonal decline. And this is a pattern I see every week in my practice, multiple times a week. Women are also under eating protein, and this is a very big nutritional gap because protein is the raw material for our neurotransmitters, for our mood, for our sleep, and for our drive in life. Most women are eating about half what they actually need for their physiology. And so often when women think, gosh, I just must be really lazy, I don't exercise enough, or I must be really overeating, so I better cut that back. You know, you're not lazy, and it's not that you're overeating, but you're not eating the right things and you're not moving your body in the right way. Someone gave you the wrong map, or you picked it up off Facebook or Instagram. I'm not sure where. Maybe your PT told you to do it this way, or some weight loss expert that didn't really understand women's hormonal terrain, right? And looking at weight gain and weight loss from a functional perspective. So let's quickly talk about what's actually going to move the needle for you. So if eating less and moving more is the wrong map, then what's the right one? What are we meant to do here? Well, I want to mention 4 specific levers for you to take away with you. Write these down if this is going to be helpful for you. So the first is stabilize your blood sugars. So this means eating balanced meals. Stop eating imbalanced meals and snacks. And I want you to eat in a rhythm that's going to work for your body. No more of this, oh, I was a little bit too busy for breakfast. That's ridiculous. Stop. That's not self-love. And the second thing I want you to do is to build and preserve some muscle on your body, because muscle is an organ of metabolic health. You are so welcome, Natalie. Yes, I'm so glad this is fascinating for you and a great reminder. So the third thing I want you to do is address this cortisol load. This is one that women get stuck on because they don't really understand how to do it. They think when I talk about chronically elevated cortisol, I'm purely talking about mental and emotional stress. There are many other stresses on the body, including physical stresses and biochemical stresses. This is one you probably need help with because we need to have a conversation about what your body interprets as stressful, which is not the same as what you interpret as stressful. You know, even a lack of sleep, not getting a good 7 to 8 hours. Sleep is medicine, and a lack of sleep is going to be, is going to be contributing to your excessive cortisol load as well. You need to match your movement to this stage of life, just the right amount of movement for your current capacity. And we can be getting, our cortisol levels can be elevated too because of poor choices in our diet. All right, and lever number 4 is I want you to address your thyroid function, but have it investigated thoroughly with someone who knows what they're talking about, and also looking at the spread of nutrients that are required for good thyroid health of the tissue, but also the factors, the cofactors needed in thyroid hormone conversion. I can't go through them all now, of course, because I try to make these like little bite-sized sessions, but these are the types of things that we go into in detail in the Radiant Health Reset. I spell it all out for you. I give you the map. All you need to do is follow the bouncing ball, and all of these things are addressed without you having to think about it, but you also get to watch video modules so that you can learn about your amazing, wonderful body and how to support all the systems and organs related to your metabolism so that you can lose the weight. And there are a few people here I can see on this call who are having some wonderful wins in terms of fat loss so far on the Radiant Health Reset. If that's you, feel very free to make a comment before we wrap up and tell people about some of the wins you've had in terms of your metabolism. Of course, when we talk about metabolism, a lot of women's minds go to fat burning, but metabolism is also the system responsible for our energy levels too. We literally make the energy in our cells. And so I have women on this call right now who've worked with me in Radiant Health Reset who've had their energy return as well. So if you feel ready to stop working with the wrong map and start working with a strategy that actually works, as I mentioned, the doors to the Radiant Health Reset are not open right now. But if you get in touch with me, we can make sure that you're one of the first to know when the doors reopen a little bit later in the year. So, some takeaways I want you to leave with today. Slow metabolism is not inevitable. It's not a malfunction. There's nothing wrong. Your body's responding logically and predictably. It's always trying to keep you safe to the inputs you've been giving it. And so if you change the inputs, I'm just watching here to see if I've missed any comments, because sometimes I need to check in both places. No, I haven't. Sarah's saying 11 weeks free now of her eating disorder. Oh, darling. Feeling more vibrant and stronger than ever at 43. That is so beautiful to hear, Sarah. Sarah, I love that the Radiant Health Reset is making you feel healthier and stronger and more vibrant at 43 than you probably were at any other decade in your life. That is the power of this program. That is so exciting. Thank you for sharing that, darling. And so this is what we do in the Radiant Health Reset. We look at these inputs. It's not mysterious, the inputs that we're getting wrong. And I teach people, here's the inputs you were getting wrong, and here's the right inputs we replace them with as well. And all of the root causes of slow metabolism are identifiable, addressable, and they respond very quickly when we change the inputs. This is exactly the work that I do with women. We investigate, we implement, and we support each other in a beautiful community. Okay, so that's Radiant Health Reset, my 6-month signature program. I do want to share one other thing with you, and that is a completely different experience. It's called the Radiant Health Experience. It's a 6-week, not 6-month program. Radiant Health Experience is a 6-week fast track. It is quite different from the Radiant Health Reset. I'm running it with a collaboration partner, Kate Sawyer. We collaborate on many things. And those of you who know Kate Sawyer will know she's phenomenal. You might have watched our Cortisol Fix Masterclass that we ran a week ago while we were in Bali. The Radiant Health Experience is perfect for women who've already done Radiant Health Reset, but it's equally going to be powerful for women who've never worked with me before. You receive inner circle support, small circle support from Kate Sawyer and I, deep work to get fast-tracked to your goals. And in the heart of the 6-week experience, we come together and meet in a luxury location in the Sunshine Coast to work together for 4 days and 3 nights with some hand-picked practitioners coming into our space. Phenomenal shifts will happen when we can come together in person and be sitting in person in proximity. All right. So if you are interested in Radiant Health Experience, please type Radiant Health Experience. Please type experience in capital letters so that myself or my team can reach out to you with more information about that. Having just come home from supporting 15 women in Bali at Kate's retreat in Ubud, I can tell you firsthand what happens in real time when women come together in proximity for healing is extraordinary. These women are forever changed and moved closer to their dreams than ever before. I can see a few women making comments about their cortisol rhythms they're really struggling with and sleep and okay. So it sounds like there are women who are needing this work. So please reach out to me so that we can commence our work together. All right. Final words on metabolism. Your metabolism is not working against you. It's responding to the life that you're asking it to live, the environment you're asking it to live in. And the good news about that is we can modulate that environment in ways that are not overwhelming, that are doable. Okay. So this is what is possible for you. Thank you for joining me. I will see you next Tuesday, beautiful women, unless I speak to you beforehand in my group. Thank you again for joining me. Mwah. See you very soon.